Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be making two cards using the Celebrating You Stamps and Dies, the Vintage Flora Cling Stamp, Lovely Layers Tulips, and then I pulled out the Lace Heart layering frames, the Spring layering frames, and the Spring Greenery. I ended up using just the Spring layering frames. And then here's the color palette that I've picked. These are all Spellbinders cardstocks. I'm using Blush. Blush. Oh, the middle one's Coral, even though it looks like orange on the screen. And then Dahlia. And then for the blue greens, it is Waterfall, Teal Topaz, and Blue Spruce. My craft cardstock is just Nina Desert Storm. So, I have a tendency to migrate towards like brighter colors, but sometimes for spring, something softer is a little bit more common, a little bit nice. So I thought we would talk about some color combinations and things that you can do when you have an idea for what kind of card, like I knew, oh, this one I garbage picked. What is this? Gold. Oh, what is the name of that one? Tuscan, I think. Is it one? I garbage picked that piece. True story. We'll talk about that in a minute, but know that piece came out of my trash can. So anyway, I knew that I wanted to use the tulips. They're very springy. But I wasn't sure exactly what kind of color combination I wanted to go with. And so I know that analogous colors or colors that are next to each other on the color wheel will always work together. So I went with a pink, a reddish color, that's the Dahlia, and then a orange. Now these are not like your traditional color wheel colors. They're a little bit desaturated, so they're a little bit softer, not quite as bright. But I think it makes for a really pretty spring combination. So I like to sort out all of my pieces after I do my die cutting. So I cut all of the flowers out of all three colors because I wasn't sure exactly what my game plan was going to be. And then the same thing for the leaves and stems. All three colors are utilized. For the centers, I only use just that one yellow color. So now I've laid out all my pieces. I know where they're all going, to which flower. And then I prefer to add my shading with alcohol markers. You could add it with ink blending. You could add it with colored pencils, watercolors if you're using the correct paper. But I'm going to be using my Copic markers. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I do like to add my shading to my lovely layers by stacking up the layers. And then typically I use my lightest color to, do each layer and mark where my darkest color should be. For this one, I guess I must have just been kind of lost in thought because I went directly to my darkest color. But normally I would not do that. Normally I would go to the lightest color because then I don't have to worry about it bumping up against the layer that's on top of it and creating a dark edge where I, may want to highlight. So, and then after that, like once I get the shadows and stuff done, then I can separate them and go through and add my coloring shading, just like I would if it was a stamped image. So once we separate them out, then I'll go in with that same color I just did the shadow with, and then just kind of extend it out. You can see where the embossed areas or debossed areas are on each layer. So they give you a couple of guidelines of how the petals should flow. And so I just try to pay attention to those. Now you can also add shading to the outside edges. I chose not to do that this time. I just kept the shadows for the most part to that kind of middle and any place where like one laid on top of the other. So for this, you'll notice in all of these, none of these are like my go-to color combinations because I don't typically use more muted colors. But I will say, I think that they did come out quite pretty and it challenges me to do something different. And so, when you challenge yourself, it's always going to help you grow as an artist in whatever medium you prefer. Mine just happens to be alcohol markers. And then you may notice for each one of these color combinations, the lightest color is almost like too light to even see. And that's kind of its purpose, is to go over what I call my light mid-tone, because I typically use 4 colors. But that's just going to help blend it into the paper. It looks a lot darker when you first put it down, but that's really just the moisture from the marker. And then once it dries, it just helps blend out those mid-tone edges, so they're not so harsh. So I do like to go in and make sure that any of the edges that we're covering up are the edge is colored in if it's going to be lined up with a piece that is colored in. I hope that makes sense. I didn't do the top because my lightest color is the color of my paper, but I did do the bottom because the bottom pieces where the petals of the tulip are kind of curled up, I do have shading on the bottom. So I had to stop my voiceover so that I could yawn. Oh, it's been a very long week. It's just been a long week. So anyway, for the centers, I'm only using 3 colors. And again, because I'm using colored cardstock, the lightest color is going to be the color of my cardstock. And then I went with my usual combination for a yellow. I just swapped out the Y08 for a YR23 because, again, that's not as bright and it is, kind of knocked back a little bit. So you guys, if you missed the lives, we've done 2 of them now. So we've completed 1 card. We've been doing the Honeybee lives, and they are live on my channel as well as the Honeybee channel Wednesdays at 1. We get together and, we make a card, we learn some things. It's a lot of fun. I love chatting with you guys. But I did, put up the photos in the Honeybee Facebook group. If you wanted to see some still shots, I put all of the things that we used in the description of the both lives, part 1 and part 2. And then what was the other thing I was going to say? The pictures, the thing, I don't know. I think maybe that's it. My brain's not working very. You ever just have that where you're like, no, I'm kind of checked out. I don't know how useful I'm going to be. So anywho, if you have not caught one of the lives, we would love to see you there. In the last live, I did share with you guys, but just in case you are not, you didn't get a chance to watch it yet, I understand they're a little bit longer. But it is real-time instruction. So, that is an added benefit. Here, I just wanted to show you the difference between when they're shaded and when they're not. And I did color all of these the same. Don't mind that you can't read any of these. It's an E93, an E95, a YR02, and then I'm going to bring in an E13 when I'm done because it felt like it needed a little bit more dimension. But anyway, as I'm going through I will use each color combination to show you, we did the full bulb with the, what is going to be our red color. And then the smaller one, this one here, this is our orange color, even though it's called coral. And then the last one will be the blush color, which is just a little bud. Lord have mercy. I cannot keep my thoughts straight. We were talking about the live and the premieres. That's where I was going with that. So if you were not in there, you haven't caught that yet. On Kelly Cahoot used to do her lives at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I am doing Wednesdays at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which seems to be working okay for some people. But for those people who only have evenings available and they still want a place where they can come and chit chat, we are going to do Monday night premieres on the Honeybee channel, so that you guys can get in there, get in the chats, and talk to one another. The Honeybee has a very healthy audience that watches their lives, and we want to make sure that you guys have the space that you need to still, connect and chat with each other. So, and then Lisa from Honeybee will be in those chats as well, and I will do my best to make it to them when I can. I know if you guys have been watching my channel, I got a little bit going on right now, so I will try to be in there to the best of my ability, but sometimes I may be absent. However, once the premiere is over, then the video will just be like a regular video. Something to note, what I just did there, like if you're putting it together and you notice that there is a lighter area or more like white space, the original color showing through where you don't want it, or maybe your lighter colors bleached out your darker colors, that happens with alcohol markers sometimes, you can always go back in and add that back in. You don't have to worry about, if you feel like you don't have enough contrast, you don't have to just leave it alone just because it's glued together. I go in and add extras all the time. So for the blush, I'm using the R32 as my darkest color. And then, I apologize for my yawn. And then I'm using an R30 and an R20. You would think that the R30 would be darker than the R20, but it's actually not. R20 is a little bit lighter. So, but again, we're trying to make sure that we are saving the paper color of the paper. So even though we don't have a lot of real estate here, we do want to make sure that we are still preserving some of that paper color, even if it's just as a highlight. On the bottom piece, it doesn't matter as much because you only see just like that top little corner. But on the two consecutive pieces, especially the top one, you do want to make sure that you've left yourself enough room to have that lightest color still be showing through. So with doing the lives, you guys who have been hanging out with me know that I have been having some technical difficulties, which is just like story of my life. Me and technology, we are not friends. We're like frenemies. Like I need technology to do my job, but also she's kind of mean to me. So, Wednesday before my live, I was getting my things set up. Kelly Cahoot and I were on, well, it wasn't even because that didn't even go as planned. So originally we were supposed to do Skype, and then now Skype has changed their thing to Google Meets, so we couldn't get on there. And then I was like, okay, let me just call you on Facebook Messenger. And then she couldn't get into her Facebook. And then I think I finally said like Zoom, I think is free for an hour. It used to be. I don't know if that's still true or not. I don't want to false advertise. And I guess she had a Zoom for like her child's homeschooling, so she just called me on that. It was crazy. So then we discovered that I didn't have some of the cords that I needed, so I went on Amazon and ordered the things so that they would be here the next morning. And then so when I got up, they were in fact here. And if you guys remember me telling you about how slow my internet was and I was mad about it, so I actually switched. My husband and I were talking about it, and I was like, well, I can't switch right now because you only have a certain amount of day to turn back in like the other company's router and their modem. And with everything going on with my mom right now, like I have no idea when we're going to be able to drop that stuff off. And he was like, well, they're going to overlap anyway. And we've already like paid for the month. So you might as well just go ahead and get it. And I'm like, okay. Plus he said, I'm going to be the one who's dropping it off. So like, just tell me when I need to drop it off, which he's not wrong. It's also how things will get mailed if they ever do, because my husband is wonderful like that. I am terrible about stuff like that. So, so I had gotten, I sent my sister a text and was like, whenever you get around to it, can I get a referral code? Well, fortunately, she had sent it to me almost immediately. So I went on there and I purchased the new internet. And I just figured, well, they're going to overlap. It'll be here, when we're ready to make the switch over. So that Wednesday, I woke up and I was like, okay, let me get go into StreamYard and get it scheduled. And then, the cord should be here and I should be able to get it all set up and good to go. And my internet was down. Like, I could not even schedule the live because the internet was down. So of course, it's all newfangled technology. Let's go back to the card for 1 second. So here I'm going to use the Vintage Flora background stamp, and I'm going to use it once with a Versamark and then once with actual tone on tone ink. I'm so sorry for yawning in your ears. I am I am emotionally exhausted. So anyway, with the Versamark, it will give you a tone on tone that is very subtle. If you wanted something that was a little bit more obvious and added an extra texture element, you could heat emboss this with clear ink, and that would be really pretty. I have absolutely done that in the past. I ended up leaving it just like this and letting the Versamark dry, so that it just added a little bit of interest to that particular piece, but it didn't distract away from anything else. For the other one, which you'll be able to see more of, I used an actual tone-on-tone color. So you just want to find a light tan or light brown for craft cardstock. I'm using sand from Hero Arts. And then I'm going to ink that up really well. For this one, I did, because you would see more of it, I wanted it to have a little bit of interest. So I sprayed a paper towel with a little bit of water, and then I just kind of blotted random areas so that would stamp a little less ink and give it more of, maybe a little more distressed kind of look. But I was happy with the way both of them came out. So whichever way you prefer. And then I'm also, this is where I told you, remember I couldn't figure out what I was doing, so I ended up cutting them both. So this is the one for the spring layering frames, which is what I ended up using. And then I did cut one out. I did cut one out of the lace heart frames. So I used the craft cardstock for that, and then the spring layering frames has that little centerpiece. So I cut one out of white, and then you will see in a little bit I will go back and cut another one out of craft cardstock. I just like that layer, whether it's using it with the frame or using it by itself. It's a nice piece to kind of bring everything together. And here's what I was saying about cutting down the, cutting it out of the middle. I didn't end up using the scallop frame, that ended up being, something that I didn't use. I just used the centerpiece that I cut out of it. For the sentiments, I decided to do them both as birthday cards, so that's why I chose the Celebrating You. And then I am going to treat with my anti-static tool, stamp it down in our brilliant white pigment ink, and then heat set it with white detail embossing powder before I cut it out with their coordinating dies. And I'm also going to cut it out of white as well. So Anywho, back to the thing. So I get up and I cannot get, like, I'm completely offline. So I go to the website. There's no outage. So I go downstairs and I do what we've all been taught to do, just unplug it and wait 30 seconds for it to kind of have a little break, and then plug it back in, and then it'll reconnect and reboot itself. So I did that, and that did not work. So then I went on and talked to the little chat bot on the website, and they were like, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you reset it? I did all the things. And so one of the things that they asked was, well, let's bypass your modem. I think it was that. And we'll plug directly into your router to make sure everything is working as it is supposed to. So use a hard line instead of Wi-Fi to plug in your computer or laptop directly into it. And so before I did that, I looked to see if my modem had been reset. And then I realized that the modem was the problem. The modem was not coming back on. So at this point, I have to do a live in, just a couple of hours. And I have no internet. So I'm just going to, fortunately for me, I had just purchased new internet, right? And they had very speedily delivered my items that morning at 9 a.m. They just dropped them off. It's a self-install. So I proceed to take out my old internet and set up my new internet. Whatever. I think by the time I finished, it was 12:15, and I go live at 1. So thankfully, we were just finishing up the card that we had done previously, so I didn't really have any prep work that I needed to do. It was kind of already done with the die cutting and stuff. But yeah, so that was Wednesday. Well, then with going live comes lots of other items that need to be set up. And so I had told my husband the other day, I was like, in order for this to work properly, I'm going to have to clean off my desk. Well, if you are a crafter who crafts in chaos like I do, you know what an undertaking the cleaning of the desk is. It is a big deal to clean under the desk. So here I have lined everything up kind of how I see them going. And now I'm putting those die cuts underneath the sentiment, kind of stacked up underneath the sentiment. And I do have to go back and kind of trim it because, with the lovely layers, we have a couple of different levels, I guess, because we have more layers than others. So some are higher than others. And so I want my sentiment to sit pretty flush alongside that. So once I get them down here, just adding glue where I need them to go, I do find it easier to glue them to themselves first. So I glued the whole, typically I would glue the whole bouquet together first and then remove those pieces and put them back on the page. In this case, I wasn't able to completely do that. They weren't, I had to do it in 2 pieces. They were not completely glued to each other. You can also use press and seal with the hinge method, but sometimes I struggle with the press and seal. I think that's probably just a me thing. I don't know. Other people don't seem to have the same issue, issues that I do, but yeah, so I think mixing up the tulip colors, I think I really did like quite a bit. And they're all, close to each other since they're right next to each other on the color wheel. So they all look very nice. And then the craft and the white are both neutrals. So yeah, I do think that this worked out pretty well. So you guys will have to let me know if you use analogous colors in your color design, or do you like more bright colors versus more subtle colors? What are you guys normally into? And And then I'm not going to, so I'm showing you this, like how this one came together. I'm not going to show you the second one because it's basically more of the same thing. And this video is already pretty long. But I will show you here putting on the sentiment. And like I said, I will end up kind of trimming that off. And I did leave that part in as well. So in the cleaning of the desk, I have an L-shaped desk, and on the one L is where I craft, on the other L is where my computer sits. And so because of that, I needed a front-facing camera in order for all of you guys to see my face when we were doing our lives. And so right now it is a little high because I have it on the regular desk stand. So it's a little high for the webcam to see me. It more sees the side of my camera. But I think once we mount it to the wall, it should be all good. That should be the only hiccup. Also, the last time I still had to use my phone, and I am hoping to be able to use my camcorder. So that's something else that like I still need to figure out and work on. But we will get there. And I do appreciate you guys and you being so patient. Speaking of appreciating you guys, several of you in the live in my videos, some of you have reached out in my Instagram private messages, asking about my mom and how she is and saying you're praying for her. I appreciate those thoughts. I appreciate those prayers. Please keep them coming. We need them. So I put on some clear shimmer, and then I am doing some just white gel pen highlights for the centers of the flowers. I chose to do, this is so funny because we're doing this as a spring card, but this pearl combination is actually holiday wishes. But it did have the right colors that I needed. So for this one, I used the more corally red color. And for the other one, I used the darker teal color to kind of match the leaves. And then that is both cards. So I hope that this inspires you to try some of those color combinations that maybe aren't your go-to. Try the ones that are next to each other on the color wheel. It might really surprise you. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.